play. Hey, talk about the songs with the most hate. Hey, let's go. I got a new video. Alesia Michelle, I'm ready to go. Eurovision fam, are you ready for the show? Hey Eurovision fam, it's Alesia Michelle, your favorite American Eurovision fan. Today's going to be an interesting day because we are talking about the songs with the most hate. Hate. No, I'm not talking about the songs that you hate. Because look, it's totally fine to not like every single song competing at the Eurovision Song Contest. No, really, it's totally fine. Okay, what I'm talking about when I say that the songs that have the most hate, it's the songs that are getting kind of beat up. And honestly, it's kind of not fair. And you might know about this because, in the words of the great Mary J. Blige, don't need no hateration. Holleration in this dancery. Yeah, so when I'm talking about haters, I think people should refer to Urban Dictionary. I don't have to give the definition to you. I think you can Google it. But when we're talking about people who are like hating on a song, and we're talking about songs that have like the most hate, it's not necessarily like the songs that the most people don't like. And it's not about the songs that are typically on the bottom. It's the songs where you kind of see people when they talk about why they don't like the song, it seems unfair. It seems unjust. And you're just kind of like, okay, come on. Like, they can't control that. That's not up to them. Like, that's not their fault. And you start seeing songs where it's like, okay, this is just not your taste. But people are trying to find other reasons not to like it, and it's unfair, it's unjust, as opposed to like just recognizing the fact that they just don't like the song and they're just not into it. And at the end of the day, we all have different tastes. That's one of the things that makes the Eurovision Song Contest so great. But at the end of the day, I think that even if something is not your taste, you can still objectively say, hey, this is a good song. But that's not what happens. People just pretend like, oh, the song is so terrible, it's so horrible, and then they pick these reasons that are just sounding like they're, I don't know, a little bit bitter, and it sounds like they're haters. Haters. So this video is all about identifying the songs that have the most hate. Now, I'm not in Israel yet. I'm gonna be there very soon. So we already have some rehearsals that have been done. Rehearsals have started, but it doesn't really matter because the songs that have the most hate, this is a very different, unique type of situation because it doesn't really have anything to do with the staging. It doesn't really have anything to do with the styling. It's just people are just hating on these entries just for the sake of hating on them. So the first song that I'm going to talk about that has the most hate,
haters,
is Portugal's song. And honestly, I think Portugal is the perfect country to sort of have some haters this year. I think honestly, Portugal, I don't know if it's one of the songs with the most hate, but I do think a lot of times when I hear people sort of downing the song, it does sound a little bit more like they're hating on the entry as opposed to just recognizing the fact that they're just not into it and it's just not the type of genre of music that they're into. And a lot of times when I hear people talk about why they don't like Portugal, it's really because they don't get it. And at the end of the day, there are a lot of things that happen in the world that we just don't get. But we don't live in a perfect world, and we don't have to get everything, and we're all coming at different experience levels, taste levels, and just real talk like knowledge bases. And a lot of the people that I hear that don't like Portugal's song, not all, but a lot of the hate that I've heard for Portugal's entry, it sounds a little bit more like people just aren't into the entry because it's not a pop track. It's not typical. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit unique. It's a little bit more artsy than commercial. And at the end of the day, if you don't like Portugal's song, I'm not saying that that instantly means that you are only seeking commercial music. I don't think that that's what's happening. But I do think that it's a different type of entry. And I think for someone to really be in it, you kind of have to expand your brain a little bit. I think you have to expand your taste level a little bit. And I think you have to be open to certain things that you might not feel comfortable with being open with because there's a lot of sounds happening in the track. I think it is a very unique entry in the way that not only it is produced and written, but I think even in the way that they're presenting it. And when I have people just kind of say like, oh, Portugal's so weird, how do you like it because it's so weird? Honestly, that's a really weird response to have from my perspective, because I don't actually think it's that weird. I don't think it's even that different. And I actually don't even think it's that unique, because a lot of the references that I think Portugal is playing on are things that I've seen before in art and music and culture. It might not be something that has happened on the Eurovision stage, but honestly, isn't that one of the greatest things about Eurovision, is that we get introduced to things that aren't necessarily of the norm, of the mainstream, right? So yeah, honestly, I think Portugal has a lot of haters this year. And again, I mean, I think the fact that Portugal has so many haters honestly works to its advantage, because at the end of the day, let's be real, Toy had a lot of haters. Now, did it have some people who just didn't like the song? Yeah, it did. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of the hate that Toy got really was more so hateration and people just hating, because they were upset that so many people actually did like it and actually did get it, and those folks just didn't get it. So I totally understand if you don't understand why Portugal has so much love. But at the end of the day, I don't understand the people who kind of say that the song is bad, because it's not. Like, we actually have some bad songs this year, and Portugal is not one of them, and that's not subjective. In my opinion, it's just a fad. Next up, I have Russia as one of my songs that's getting a lot of hate. So you might be thinking to yourself,
Alesia, do you even like Russia's song?
Alesia, I thought you didn't like Russia's song.
So here's the thing. Russia is not in my top 10. It's not in my top 15. But I also don't think it's a bad song. And I think, honestly, a lot of the people who are hating on Russia's song, because that's what they're doing, they're hating on it, one, because it's Russia, yeah, and Russia's government has a lot of policies that you might not agree with. And I think that's a totally fair assessment, except for the fact that this is the Eurovision Song Contest, and this doesn't really have anything to do with politics. It really doesn't. Yeah, so I'm seeing a lot of people hating on Russia's entry, and I think people are hating on it most in part because it's Russia. And look, let's be real, there are gay people who live in Russia. Yes, there are gay people who live in Russia. And not all of those gay people are in jail. So the idea that Russia cannot host the Eurovision Song Contest because they're gonna lock up all the queer people, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. A little bit. A little bit. I mean, Russia could attempt to lock up every single person who's gay that goes to the Eurovision Song Contest. But they're not gonna do that. Yeah, I just think Russia's getting hated on because it's Russia. And it doesn't really have a lot to do with the song. I do think Russia's song is getting hated on mostly because it is Russia. And look, here's the thing. I don't think Russia's song is that good this year. I think that You're the Only One was actually a stronger and better song. I do think that Russia is going to give us a show. I think they're going to give us great staging. But at the end of the day, do I think that Russia is deserved off of the song? This is with me not seeing the staging. Off of the song alone, do I think it's worthy of a top 3 finish this year? No. I don't, because I think we have stronger songs this year, and that has nothing to do with the fact that it's Russia's song, because at the end of the day, in 2016, you can check this, I actually had Russia as my number 1. I actually thought that Sergei was the winner of Eurovision 2016, but at the end of the day, it's not 2016 anymore. It is 2019, Eurovision 2019, happening in Tel Aviv, Israel. I'm so excited. And at the end of the day, I don't think that this song is that strong, but I do think that this has a lot of haters, and I think the people are hating, and it's kind of unfair, because I think a lot of folks are just hating on the entry because it's Russia and because of the politics surrounding Russia. And look, I'm an American. Let's be real, I have no favoritism towards Russia at all, politically speaking. At the end of the day, I don't. But I do think that Sergei is an amazing performer. I think they're going to put on an amazing show in Tel Aviv. I am so excited to see the staging. I think it's going to be really, really great. And I am open to it. And I definitely don't think that Russia's song is the worst song that we have this year. So I think some of the love that people have for it isn't necessarily just rooted in the fact that it's Russia. And Russia is strong when it comes to the Eurovision Song Contest. I think, this isn't the worst song this year, and even though it's not a track that I personally gravitate towards or want to listen to more than once, because it's not, I don't listen to the song more than once and I do skip it, but I don't think it's one of the worst tracks that we have this year, and I don't think it's a bad song, and I do think once I have the staging in front of me, I will have a different response and reaction to it, but I might not either. So yeah, I definitely think Russia's getting hated on, but honestly, I think Russia gets hated on every single year at Eurovision. It's just how it is. Speaking of countries that often get hated on, I'm gonna say Sweden is getting a little bit hated on this year. Now, I will say, I don't think that Too Late for Love is one of the best songs that we have this year. Too Late for Love is not in my top 15, but at the same time, I don't think it's a bad song. I don't think that it is well produced. I don't think that it is not well produced, and I don't think that the stage show is going to be bad. But at the end of the day, I do think a lot of people are just hating on Sweden because they're a little bit bitter. Because Sweden does Eurovision so well. They really do it so well. And I do also think that Sweden is suffering a little bit because they are sending a male performer again. And even though it hasn't been that long since they sent like Sanna Nielsen, at the end of the day, I do think we had some great female performers at Melody Festival. And I do think at this point, Sweden is almost kind of competing against itself when it comes to Eurovision. So it's sort of like we know that Sweden can give us a lot. And I think people have a lot of high expectations for Sweden. I think people feel that this entry is a little bit lackluster. However, I do think a lot of the hate that this song is getting is really just because Sweden tends to be slightly overhyped when it comes to Eurovision. It's a fact, it just keeps happening, but I don't think it's necessarily unfair because Sweden does deliver. Sweden takes the Eurovision contest really, really seriously, and I do think that they give us quality. But I do think this year, Sweden, for me personally, I was expecting a little bit more, or I don't know, I think I was expecting something different because we have so many unique entries this year. So I understand why some people are a little bit like meh about Too Late for Love, but at the end of the day, I still think that Too Late for Love is a good song. It's not that bad, and it's getting a lot of hate online, and I think a lot of the hate that Sweden is getting is because it's Sweden, and everyone's just sick of seeing Sweden at the top of the betting odds when it's just like, okay, if the UK had sent Too Late for Love, let's be real. Like, if the UK had sent Too Late for Love, they would probably be at the same place that they are right now with Bigger Than Us. And that's just a fact. If any other country sent Too Late for Love, I think people would feel kind of meh about it. And I think even worse, because Too Late for Love is actually a good song, but I think if Moldova, Belarus, North Macedonia, a country, Malta, a country that typically struggles to qualify, or a country that doesn't typically have as much budget as some of the other countries, I think that if some of those countries had sent Scream, and I'm talking again about Russia, like, let's be real, we would not be seeing them at number 2 in the betting odds. And that is just a fact, based off of the song. But because it's Sergei Lazarev, and because it's Russia, I mean, we know that it's not going to be garbage on stage, and we know they probably will qualify. But again, I do think if another country that typically struggles to qualify decided to send Scream, it would not be number 2 in the betting odds, and that's just a fact. And anyone who doesn't think that, like, please share me your logic, because I just don't agree. The song is really not as strong as it could be, you know what I'm saying? I would also say that I think Sweden's getting a little bit of hate on their song because people are just calling it generic. Oh, it's so generic. But, like, there are plenty of other countries that are sending generic songs, and I feel like generic sometimes gets used as a substitute for mainstream. And there's a reason why, like, mainstream things are mainstream. It's because a lot of people like them. And just because a lot of people like something doesn't mean that you have to hate it. Like, it's okay. A lot of people like Switzerland's entry, and I feel like some people are hating on it because they're just like, oh my god, it's just like a copy of, like, Fuego. And, like, the thing is, it's not. And, like, stop trying to make me feel bad for the fact that I like a song that makes me get on the dance floor and move. You know what I'm saying? So with that said, I guess I have to talk about Switzerland a little bit. And I would say that Switzerland is definitely getting hated on this year. And I think the frustrating thing about Switzerland getting hated on is the fact that it's like some of the same people that are hating on Switzerland's entry love Malta and they love Cyprus. And I kind of feel like it's a little bit of a case of like, nah, I'm gonna need you to keep that same energy. If you like this bop, like, I don't see why this other one is so repulsive to you. Because it's like the same people who will say that Replay is so awesome, so great, will just down Switzerland and She Got Me as if it's just some trash track that isn't well done. And the problem is, you sound a little bitter and you sound like a hater, because at the end of the day, the song is well produced. The visual in the music video was well thought out and makes sense and relates to the song that we have. The staging is going to be tight. It's going to be good. The vocal we're going to get is going to be good. And honestly, Luca Hany is really not the strongest dancer. Like, let's be real. He's not. But the way that they're going to cut those camera angles, he's going to look like he's freaking Michael Jackson. So even though he might not naturally be the best or strongest dancer, he's going to look like he is. And that is the point. And that is what they should do, because this is just going to be a well-produced stage show. It's going to be strong. The song is strong. When I tell you it's one of my most listened to tracks this year, it is. And it makes sense. It's about to be summertime. I'm thinking about dancing. I'm thinking about going out and being cute. You know what I'm saying? I do think that Switzerland's getting a lot of haters. And the reason why I say that Switzerland's getting a lot of haters, and that doesn't mean that you can not like the song. You can totally not like the song. But I do feel like Switzerland's getting hated on by a lot of people who are saying that Replay is like the second coming of Christ. And I'm gonna just need y'all to keep that same energy, because if Replay is the second coming of Christ, I mean, at least Switzerland is like one of the apostles or something. You know what I'm saying? Okay, and I'm going to talk about Australia. And I've sort of touched on this in a couple of my other videos. I do think Australia is getting hated on. I think Australia is getting hated on, one, because it's Australia. And you still have people who are like, I don't even understand why Australia is participating in the Eurovision Song Contest. And I've already told you my opinion about that. At the end of the day, they're participating, and at least they're participating and coming with quality. They're not coming here and being like lazy, just sitting like shitty ass tracks. They're not. And I will say, I was not a fan of what Australia brought to the Eurovision Song Contest last year. And this year is by and far an upgrade. And the fact that we have one of our best female vocalists representing Australia, and people are still complaining about the fact that 2000 and whatever didn't win, is just weak. I mean, at the end of the day, Australia had a very strong national selection. They did. It was some Melfest quality national selection, and I would argue the songs that Australia had in their national selection were more exciting and more interesting than what Melody Festival brought to us as a whole this year, and lasted over a longer period of time. Australia brought us quality, and at the end of the day, I mean, Zero Gravity is a great song. It is going to be well performed. It is going to be staged thoughtfully. And one of my Twitter followers said that people have Australiaphobia, and I have to tend to agree. And the thing is, I think some of the hate for Australia is just because I do think Australia could have not qualified last year. I think that they could have not qualified in 2017, even though I think Isaiah's song in 2017 was a strong track, and I definitely think it was stronger than what Jessica Mauboy brought last year, because Jessica Mauboy's song last year, I mean, you want to talk about a track that was generic, that was definitely a generic track in my opinion, but I do think she performed it slightly better than Isaiah. But even then, I mean, Isaiah had like 2 bum notes, whereas I think there were prolonged periods of time where Jessica Mauboy was flat. Just point blank, she was flat. But that's a sidebar. We now have Kate Miller-Heidke singing this song pitch perfect. The staging is gonna be good. And the song is not bad. I mean, this is like Ellie Goulding, Sarah Brightman realness. And I think if any other country had brought the song, I don't think that it would have the hate that it's getting. And I do think some of the hate for Australia is unfair. Now, again, I will repeat myself. If you just don't like the song and you just don't like the genre, that's fine. But I do think when I hear people say, oh, the song is just so flat. What? How can you talk about a song where someone has literally the most dynamic vocal and vocal range that we have this year, and you can say that that song is flat? Stop. Stop. You're hating. You're bitter. If you don't like the song, that's fair. But let's not down someone and then come up with these fantastical reasons as to why the song is bad. Like, to justify the fact that you just don't like it. It's totally fine to not like it, but I don't have to like make up reasons as to why it's not good, because at the end of the day, Zero Gravity is a good song and it's going to be performed well. And I mean, that vocal is undeniable. It's one of the best vocals that we have this year. And trust and believe, we will be listening to the semifinal and hearing some bum-ass notes from some other countries. And if you think that those songs are better and you would rather tolerate bum notes than like a pitch perfect performance, then that's on you. I don't want that. I think that the Eurovision Song Contest is better than that. And let me get to my honorable mentions a little bit, because I do think the UK is being hated on a little bit unfairly. I can understand why some people think that the song is generic, and I can understand why some people think that the song is safe. But where I start having issues is the fact that I feel like if Sweden had sent this song, it would be higher ranked. I think that if one of the Balkan countries had sent this song, it would be higher ranked. And I think because it's the UK and people are just waiting for, I don't know, Amy Winehouse to come out of the grave to represent the UK, or Adele to represent the UK, or Ed Sheeran or Coldplay. I mean, let's be real. Coldplay, Ed Sheeran, they don't have time. And Amy Winehouse is not even here anymore. But Michael Rice is delivering us one of the best vocals of this year, point blank. And he is elevating that song to high heights. And I even think that, say we wanted to flip it and say that the UK was sending Too Late for Love and Michael Rice was singing it, and say, you know, John Lundvik was singing Bigger Than Us representing Sweden, Sweden would still be in the position that it's in right now, and the UK would be exactly where it is right now. And that to me is point blank definition of hateration, because it's just not just, it's not really based in actual facts or realness. And at the end of the day, I do think the UK is getting hated on a little bit, because I think people have high standards for the UK, which is fair. And I think there were years where the UK did not take the song contest seriously, and they should have. And so now people are just like, oh, now you want to take it seriously? You could wait out a little bit. Like, so I get that. But at the end of the day, Michael Rice is being seriously slept on, and he's one of the best vocalists that we have this year. And I don't really even care what the staging looks like, because I think it's going to be good. And honestly, the UK has been staging very well the past couple of years. And since they started You Decide, I mean, they've definitely been investing in their acts. And I think Michael Rice can deliver. I think he can deliver, because that vocal is truly one of the best vocals that we have this year. Point blank, period. I say that comfortably and confidently. Another country I'm going to give an honorable mention to is Cyprus. I'm gonna give Cyprus a little bit of an honorable mention. Look, and I will say that I don't think it's getting hated on that much, but I do think the whole Fuego comparisons are not completely that fair, because if you had like another songwriter writing it, I could jive to that, but it literally is the same guy that wrote Fuego. Like, you don't think that he has like a personal style that he's gonna keep to? Like, that's basically saying that the Neptunes need to make every single song different. And let's be real, the Neptunes are some of the best producers we've ever had, like, in the world. Same thing with Timbaland. Like, everyone has a unique sound. And I think as a creator, you're allowed to have a sound that you kind of keep. And at the end of the day, I mean, Cyprus is not Fuego. It's giving us the same energy. It's the same genre. But, I mean, are we just going to hate on a country because something did well, and then, like, we don't want someone to do something that did well again? I mean, I think it'd be different if another country picked it up, like with Switzerland, fair enough. But Cyprus did Fuego last year, and then they're coming this year with something that's of the same essence. And I don't really see the issue. I really, really don't. At this point, I don't see the issue. Not to mention the fact that, let's be real, I mean, Replay is a stronger vocal and is in slightly a more demanding song vocally than Fuego was. So I did see some of the clips of the staging, and it looks good. I'll be real, the vocal was not where I wanted to hear it at. Like, the vocal was a little bit like, I'm gonna need a little bit more. But at the end of the day, like, this is your first time on the stage. This is your first time with your whole costume. The lights are on you. I don't think that it's going to be an issue when we're talking about the semifinals. You know what I'm saying? All right, that's my video. That's what I think of the songs with the most hate for Eurovision 2019. What do you think? talk to me in the comments below. Do you agree with me? Talk to me in the comments below. Do you disagree with me? That's totally fine. Talk to me in the comments below. I'm about to be in Israel. I'm going to be there for the second rehearsals. So definitely like and subscribe because I definitely have more content coming to you. And I'm going to tell you the real talk because that's what you come to me for. You want the truth. You don't want to hear some fluffy stories about all these bloggers like, oh, everyone was great. Everyone was great. Because like, we know the truth. Everyone wasn't great. Everyone wasn't great. But yes, make sure that you like and subscribe because I got more content coming for ya. Let's get excited for Eurovision 2019. Bye.